welcome to the Smash at the Den podcast. I'm Suvir, and I'm joined today by Nick and James, who we're going to be talking about basically Smash at UCLA stuff, like what's happened in the past and what we expect to happen for Week 8 and what we have planned for Week 9. So we're just going to introduce ourselves as hosts real fast. So I'm Suvir. My tag is Suvir. I'm one of the main TOs and club organizers at UCLA here, and I play all the Smash games. I'm mostly a PM player, but I've dabbled in Ultimate more this quarter, and that's basically what I am. So you guys can introduce Nick. You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Alright, what's up guys? Nick. My tag is Zick Nemmels. It's kind of a flip of my first and last name. I'm going to be starting to be TOing more tournaments here at UCLA as a third year start to graduate after next year. I'm part of the lab team on the Fox Discord, so watch out for dash tags, everyone. And a brief background, basically, I'm just trying to improve as much as I can and also be part of the club and try and help our community grow.
And then James, you can go ahead and introduce yourself real fast.
Hi, my name is James. My tag is Band. I've been a UCLA TO for the last couple of years. I entered competitive Smash during Smash 4 when I was a 4 Glory Diddy main, but I play all games pretty mid-level.
Alright, so going off that, our first topic is really going to be about Week 8, and we want to start off by discussing some of the notable non-PR and PR players that we think are going to perform well or have interesting backgrounds to how they're going to perform at Week 8. So first we're going to start talking about the non-PR players that we wanted to discuss, and this is a list of Nick, which is one of our hosts here, Dave, a Yoshi main, Bonathan, a Ness and Lucina main. He's also dabbling in Sheik, I think.
He said he wants to main
yeah,
Sheik.
And then Penguin, Tsukasa, and Arcane. And we're going to go into detail about each one of them, basically how they've performed this quarter, and then what we expect out of them for Week 8. And then after that, we're going to go through the current UCLA PR players and what we expect for them as well. So I guess we could start off talking about Nick. I guess, Nick, you could tell us about what your results have been this quarter.
So, Scrub Mountain, the weeks leading up to it, I was practicing really hard for it. Played Smash almost every day. I did about as well as my seed was, so I'm pretty happy with that. I lost to Daniel in right outside of pools in top 16. Lost game 1 is Fox, and I kind of picked it to Young Link and actually took a game, so I'm really surprised because I was not expecting my Young Link to be needed for that matchup. So I was pretty bummed about that loss, and then I won a couple matches and losers and had to face Arcane. He was the number 1 seed. He got knocked out really early, so that was a tough loss as well. That also went to game 3, but he ended up eking it out. And since then, I've been playing against a lot more Palutena, so if I do have to face him again, I feel pretty confident about that. At week 4, I ran into my fated rival that's not really rivalry because he bodies me every time, David, in winners. He's our number 1 PR guy. And then I lost to Severe in losers. He pulled out his Wario that tournament, and I was not ready for the Severe Wario. It's quite different from Penguin's Wario. And then I got 9th at week 6. I was really happy about that because we had some heavy hitters come from outside of UCLA, so I was glad to still get a decent showing there. I lost to PSI guy in winners, and that was a decent match between us. I actually took game 1 and then just couldn't close it out. And then I lost to Goldman as well in losers for top 8 qualifier. He gave me a hard time with Samus. Him and Daniel have very different styles, but I think my style matches up more against Sammy's Samus, but it still wasn't enough to take up the win. So that's kind of like an overview of how my tournaments went this quarter.
And looking at this list, it doesn't seem like there are any terrible losses.
Yeah.
No, I like to think of myself as pretty consistent.
Yeah, I was definitely going to point that out. I think that Nick is definitely as one of the top people who's on this non-PR list, he's definitely shown that he's consistently performed at right below the PR players level.
I pretty much beat everyone that I should beat, and have a somewhat of a chance against those who are expected to beat me. So
yeah, he gives them a run for his money for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess with that, going into week 8, I should hope to see you perform either just as well as you've been performing, or maybe even make an upset or two.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully he doesn't get
That-
David
that's
round
the-
one or round two.
There's some people that I can make an upset against, but I'll need the bracket for it because there's certain brackets where there's just no chance that I'm gonna make any upsets. So we'll see how the bracket pans out for me.
So I guess our next player we're going to discuss is Dave, and Dave's a Yoshi. He kind of gave everyone a surprise when he showed up to Scrub Mountain. None of us really expected him to do that well. He wasn't even seated that high. Dave being his tag now Birdman, I think.
Yeah.
And he surprised everyone by beating both Q and Hunter Owner. I really haven't seen him in a bracket after that, so I'm not sure. I mean, I think he did come with us to CSUN and he didn't have a good run there, but you know, it's a different thing when you're at your school on your home turf performing. So I wonder how he's gonna do. What do you guys think about that?
The other thing is Dave, I see him playing a lot with more robots and George. They kind of have like a little group friend that plays a lot, and it's always good to play a lot when you're trying to improve in the game, right? And you know, he also plays like a pretty obscure character in the meta. It's not a lot of people are ready for the matchup dynamics that Yoshi brings to the table.
Not just obscure, but very jank and a lot of stuff that you think you can punish, but
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
try
yeah.
to, you get 60%.
It's really interesting. So there's that.
I mean, in general, our club has not had the best experience against Yoshi, as seen by our last tournament where we all fell to Suga and took our tournament. So, I mean, Dave definitely has that advantage in the matchup against a lot of players.
He's got the Yoshi factor.
I also remember in Smash 4, our matches, they were getting closer towards the end of Smash 4, but I never really had an issue beating him. But he's improved a lot recently, so to the point where like I'd be scared if I had to play him in the bracket. So I could definitely see him doing pretty well at our Week 8 tourney. Yeah, he's definitely got that factor.
And then we have Bonathan as our next player. And Bonathan's had interesting results this quarter. It seems somewhat... there's a bit of an inconsistency that... So he started off with a 5th at Scrub Mountain, which was very good. I think we seated him a bit below that, maybe, or around there.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. And I mean, he lived up to what he was expected to do.
Mm-hmm.
He only lost to Melon and Arcane, which are respectable losses. I mean, 2nd and 3rd at Scrub Mountain.
The other thing to note about his set against Arcane was that it was a reverse 3-0, so he was this close to taking me out.
He was very close game 3, I remember
Yeah.
that, and it was very interesting to see how, you know, how you deal with those situations. Afterwards, he was like, he was very respectful of Arcane for taking the win. He was like, I could have done it, but, you know, I have to give him respect. And that's always good to see. Week 4, he did not do as well as he hoped. I know he lost to Jay at that tournament. I don't remember who else he lost to. I think I didn't write it down, but I know he did lose to Jay there, and in general, he didn't perform as well as he wanted to. But he did come back strong in week 6, and he beat Daniel to get 7th place. So
knocked him out with his Ness.
Yeah, he went Ness. I think he went Ness most of the day, and he only lost to Soul and James. So it's very impressive from him coming into like our last tournament of the quarter.
The other notable thing about his run at week 6 was that this was like shortly after he started picking up Sheik, and so I want to say he actually went Sheik game 1 in almost all of his sets.
He did against Soul.
Yeah,
he actually took a game.
He took a game with Sheik off of Soul's Ridley, so that's really respectable.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that just goes to show that like he probably lost like a decent amount of those game 1s just because his character was so new, but that shows like his confidence in like trying to get tournament experience and also like not endangering his winner's run. And I also think that you know, his Sheik might be something to look out for in week 8 because he's been practicing a lot since then, playing mostly Sheik. He really enjoys his character.
I mean, I've seen Bonathan out on the D-Gen nights more than I've ever seen him out
Yeah.
before.
It seems like he's pretty determined to do well.
He's definitely looking for maybe getting some upsets, you know, trying to push his way on to that PR level.
Right.
But that's the thing, he's still kind of in a character crisis, and he's trying to main Sheik. So
okay, like I've been on setups with him and Soul a lot, and like he does relatively well against Soul. You know, like he's not going even, but he's taking games, and that says a lot for like that kind of matchup where Soul just punishes you so hard for these little mistakes, right?
Yeah, but she can gimp, I think, even Ridley pretty well with the bad up B. Like,
Yeah,
if he just gets a back air and knocks him under stage, he just dies.
Yeah, he's got a lot to learn. He overextends a bit too much off stage sometimes, but regardless, he still has a really solid Lucina and Ness in his pocket.
That's
so
true.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see Bonathan even make an upset with how much he's been practicing recently.
Yeah.
Definitely. He's a really smart player.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look forward to. Next on our list, we have Penguin. Now, the main reason Penguin is here is because he has had, I think, a quarter that's like shown where last quarter he started off the game basically. That is his first time playing Smash.
Yeah.
And he's improved a lot. And even now, like, each week we see him getting better. So his placing for the past quarter have been kind of improving as the quarter went on. I mean, he had 13th at week 4, losing to Hunter and Sohaib, and a 17th at week 6, losing to Q and 9S.
I also think he got 17th at Scrub Mountain as well.
Yeah, 17th at Scrub Mountain, but that's an improvement from 17th at Scrub Mountain to 17th at a really
that's the difference.
A real tournament.
That's the difference.
So-
right? We had no PR players into Scrub Mountain.
Yeah.
But we had almost all our PR plus some heavy hitters like Suga and PSI.
Yeah, and I think the main thing that's changing for Penguin is he's starting to have a bit more confidence in his tournament play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very important because a lot of people, you can feel comfortable in friendlies, and we know that in friendlies he does fine.
Mhm.
It's just when you get in that state where it's like, I need to try my best to win, it's sometimes difficult for a newer player to be able to edge it out in those situations.
Tournament experience is so important when you're trying to do well in bracket because everyone can do well in friendlies, but when it comes to that last stock last hit scenario, you need to have the confidence and the composure to eke out that last neutral win and take the victory. So Penguin is probably one of the players that plays the most in our club. So he definitely has a lot of practice, but it's gonna come up to that defining moment where is he gonna crumble under the pressure, or can he stay composed to take the win?
Yeah, and he's another player that's, still going through a small character crisis of if he wants to play Wario or PT. And each character is getting better, but because he keeps switching, I don't even know who he's going at this point.
I think he's getting like a more refined list of who he needs to go PT against and who he needs to go Wario against. And so in week 6 when he lost to Q, he went PT games 1 and 2, and then I know Q counterpicked him Smashville game 3,
Mm-hmm.
and Smashville is probably Wario's best stage, and so he actually went Wario, and he kept it close in that game.
Yeah.
So like, it's definitely not as much of an issue as you think it'd be for him switching between the characters like mid-set. He can almost do it, so he's pretty close, I'd say.
I think there's a confidence in his play, but I want to see the confidence in the character, like, going through the set. Because I know with a lot of people who dual main, sometimes you lose a game and you're like, oh, did I pick the right matchup?
Yeah.
And I know Penguin sometimes has those issues. And with this tournament, I think what I'm looking out for seeing from him is just, like, a consistency in what he wants to play where. Yeah. And basically using the PT when he thinks it's going to work and not having like doubts about that matchup where, oh, if I went Wario this game, I would have done better.
The other thing, he's been labbing a lot, specifically with his Squirtle combos, and I can at least relate to this where I know if you're confident in your combos, then you know that you can like bring back a deficit. And so he can like take you from 0 to 60 with Squirtle pretty frequently. So I know that like the time he's spending outside of bracket is definitely gonna help him in bracket. So definitely looking out to see how well he'll do.
Alright, so next up we have Tsukasa Daniel, our Scrub Mountain winner for this quarter. Basically, they're proving that, he is right on the brink of the PR.
Right.
That he's able to compete at that level. And he didn't come out to week 4. It was an unfortunate situation where it was kind of a miscommunication with where the tournament was going to be. But he did make it out to week 6, and he performed well there. I mean, he beat Kairos, who is one of those outside players coming into UCLA.
Yep.
And he lost to Zingzam. And he did have a good set with Bonathan, but he couldn't edge it out. But obviously Bonathan's one of the players we're talking about. It's definitely not a bad loss.
And he's taking sets off me, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he lost to Bonathan's Nest specifically. So
And I know he went to Hat before that, and he lost to Muffin
Yeah.
from Mars. So he's been having difficulty with that matchup in general.
So the other thing though is right after the tournament, he went straight in our Discord and started asking everyone for help. And I know Sohei gave him a lot of pointers. I know Masaki or Anthony, one of our other Nest mains, he gave him a lot of pointers in that matchup as well. So if there was a rematch between them in bracket, I wouldn't be surprised if Daniel did a bit better against his Nest and maybe force him off Nest on the Lucina or Sheik.
One thing I wouldn't be surprised either is we see Daniel make an upset or two. I mean, the PR players, he's shown that he can compete with them. Like, he's
Definitely.
taken a set off band, I'm pretty sure. He runs it close with Zing every time, and I think he has, like, a slight, like, I know Chris has the advantage over him, but he also has, like, practice in the matchup where sometime it could
Yeah.
be doable.
They
you know?
they fiend a lot.
So I wouldn't be
Something
surprised to see good things from Daniel going into week 8. Our last player that we're going to discuss for the non-PR players is Arcane. He had the most interesting performance at Scrum Mountain. Having been upset in pools by Vinny, he goes through the loser's gauntlet and just takes second place, only losing to Daniel after that. And he went through some tough situations. We were talking earlier about how he's down 2-0 to Bonathan. He just brings up back 3-0. I mean, we saw a great pop off from him after.
He was very happy after that win.
Yeah, so I mean,
And that was also like, Arcane doesn't actually play this game much. You don't see him often at the Nev practicing friendlies. You don't really see him in like an outside friend group that plays a lot, kind of like Sammy and Zing do, or like more Robots and George. He really doesn't practice all that often, and yet he still does great whenever he comes out. So I mean, he hasn't come to a bracket outside of Scrub Mountain, so maybe we'll see some inconsistency there, but
yeah, I was gonna bring that up as well. Like, sometimes with players who only have few results, like, you're not really sure how they're gonna do, because it could have just been like a good day, and then this may be a bad day. You never know, and sometimes not going to a tournament in a while makes you forget how that feels to be in those situations.
But it seems like whenever he does go to a tournament, he's pretty consistent. He doesn't get 3-stocked, but he doesn't really beat anyone super notable. I think he does about as well as you'd expect.
Yeah, to the hats he went to, he did pretty alright. I think he got top 24 a couple times, and that was back when Hat was getting more entrants than it is now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's more likely than not that he'll do pretty well, but we'll see what happens. I have faith.
So next we're basically going to talk about, we decided that it'd be interesting if us as hosts decided to rank our non-PR players, basically not really a ranking, but more so how we expect them to do in the tournament relative to each other. So we're going to put those lists on screen for you guys to see, but we're basically going to discuss each other's lists. So we'll start off my list. I had Bonfin doing really well at the tournament. After him I have Tsukasa, then Arcane, then Nick, then Dave, then Penguin. And my reasoning for this ordering is Bonathan has been practicing a lot recently. I've seen him out a lot more, and he just got a really good performance last tournament. Daniel beating Daniel, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him go far, maybe even do better than Daniel. And then the next 3 I think are very close in skill level, and I mean that could be reordered. I'm just doing that ordering based on what I've seen in the tournaments in the past few weeks. Basically, also Scrum Mountain plays a little bit of bias into that. And then Dave, I have him over Penguin. I think that they're probably pretty close, but I've seen Dave pull out more situations in general in tournament.
Especially head-to-head as well.
Yeah, even head-to-head. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Dave do better than Penguin at this tournament. I guess, Ben, you can talk about your list right now for the non-PR. It's kind of similar to mine. But
I used to have, I initially had Bonathan higher at the top, but I thought about it, and he's trying to main Sheik and Ness, and I feel like that the whole thing with him being new to Sheik especially, I feel like something's gonna happen where he might do a little worse than you'd expect. But I think it really depends on his bracket. I think a lot of these players, it really depends on their bracket, because a lot of these players have demons, I put Nick above Dave because I think Dave, he has a tendency to get good wins sometimes, but he also can bust her out a little bit, and I think Nick is a little more consistent. But I think Arcane overall, most people don't know how to deal with a campy Palutena, so that's why I put him above.
And I agree with a lot of the points you made. Bonathan, like you do have a good point with when you're trying to play multiple characters. Sometimes things could just not go the way you expect them, and I wouldn't be surprised as well. I'm interested to see how it goes, and then we can talk about Nick's list.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with the same reasoning that James did for Tsukasa over Bonathan. You know, personally, with my experience with playing multiple characters, I used secondary Young Link, and I made the mistake of a couple times too many of warming up my secondaries too much compared to my main, which is Fox. And that kind of hurt my bracket performance because I didn't have like the comfort that I wanted in bracket. And so I could definitely see that happening with Bonathan, where we saw in week 6 he was going Sheik game 1 every time, and then in most of the games switching off to his other characters, and then winning the next 2 games, or maybe winning game 1, staying with Sheik, losing game 2, and then switching game 3. So it just provides a much greater chance to underperform, and maybe that's worth it given the tournament and bracket experience you're getting with your new character. Maybe he's valuing that over getting really far in bracket if he only stayed with Ness and Lucina. But I think that main point is why I'm going to put Tsukasa over Bonathan. I have myself over Arcane mainly because of the point where Arcane's not been playing much, whereas I'm playing pretty much constantly. I've also stuck to Fox for a lot more matchups recently since I switched to using Pikachu instead of Young Link, and so I won't be going secondaries very often in bracket anymore. So I'll have like a greater chance of like being warmed up and ready with the characters that I need to win. I also put myself for Arcane because I have a lot more experience against the problem matchups that have stopped me earlier. And my mentality also in bracket has been getting a lot better. So I have a lot of confidence in myself in being able to make it pretty far. And then Dave over Pengu, I think it's really dependent on the bracket for which of those gets placed higher. But I think in an average bracket, Dave will go farther than Penguin. So that'll be my reasoning for that list.
Alright, and then that is basically our overview of the non-PR players that we're expecting some things out of this upcoming week.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to move on to our PR players. So we have basically the list we're going to be going through is Nanook, Goldman, Zing, Sol, Alfredo, Band, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Jukia because he is PR'd from last quarter, even though he doesn't go here. He will be attending this week, so we're going to talk a little bit about him. But let's start off with Nanook. Now, I know going into a quarter as being previously ranked number 1 is like that for most people is a tough thing to keep up,
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen a start very strong where he beats Zan at the first FAD he attends out of school this quarter, and he shows I'm able to keep up even with SoCal PR and get these wins.
Mm-hmm.
But then we see, he goes to CSUN, he gets second, losing to HLB's DK. And then week 4 and week 6, he didn't really perform how he wanted to. He wanted to win those tournaments. Yeah. And week 4, he falls in winners to X-Yosher, and he falls in losers to Zing. And then week 6, he loses to Suga in a game 5 set, and then loses to Sammy 3-0, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And, taking those losses when you're just coming off a quarter where you're ranked 1, I know that it's like you feel like you always have something to prove that, I'm still at that level. And, I hope that we see a good performance from him and he gets what he wants out of this upcoming tournament, but it's always difficult when you have the pressure on your back, being considered the number 1 player.
The other thing slightly holding him back is that he has a secondary Palutena, but it actually seems like it's his main at this point just based on how often he uses Palutena in bracket. I've talked to him many times in the past, and he feels that there are just too many matchups within our club specifically that Palutena just outright does objectively better than Chrom in. So even though he thinks Chrom is his better character, you'll see him go Palutena very often in bracket, and I think that kind of frustrates him a bit because he doesn't feel as comfortable with the character, and yet he doesn't want to switch off to the worst matchup with Chrom. So hopefully we'll see a bit more comfort within the Palutena pick, so that doesn't hold him back as much. And yeah, I think he can definitely do extremely well. Obviously, our number one PR is a favorite to go far in bracket, and as long as he has confidence in that Palutena, and he can back up with Chrom, then I think he'll do well.
The thing about David as a player is that he's really, really good at playing matchups that he's familiar with.
Yeah.
But then when a rando comes up with DK, he doesn't know what to do, and sometimes he just kind of freaks out and gets 3-stocked by HLB's DK.
If he's seen things before, he's really smart and can figure out an option that'll beat whatever he's losing to. But in the matchups I'm familiar with, like you said, it's a bit more of a struggle.
Yeah. So next up, Goldman, I think, has had an interesting quarter. You know, he's usually not one to attend outside UCLA, so he only has 2 results. Basically, he had a result he wasn't satisfied with and one he was really satisfied with. So 9th at week 4, losing to 9S in the winners, which he thinks is well, I think in general you don't expect him to lose those. And losing to David in losers, but you know, he did practice a lot in between those weeks. He grinded up really hard for week 6, and he came back to show, you know, he can compete with the best at UCLA and even sometimes beat the player that comes out on top from our school. He got the best placing out of any UCLA player at that tournament, 2nd place. Only losing to Suga twice. He beat Ben, he beat Zing, he beat David.
Yeah, got to run back on David. That's really important that you can make the necessary changes within such a short time span. From week 4 to week 6, go from losing to a player to, I think we said we 3-0'd him.
Yes.
Is that right? So that's a massive difference, and I think that goes to show a lot about how hard he was practicing in between the tournaments.
Yeah, and I know that he has shown, I mean, obviously with his Melee experience in the past, he's shown dedication to improving in a game and just trying to be as good as he knows he can be. Because I know that in general, a lot of us, sometimes we struggle with the motivation, you know, sometimes it's hard to always want to practice with intent. Sometimes you just want to have fun and mess around while you're playing, but for him it's always, you know, most of the time I have to play my main, I have to try every game, and he practices with people who are the same way. I mean, you never see Zing off Snake, you never see Daniel not playing Stannis, and those are his main practice partners, so it's interesting to see that, you know, his work is, even though sometimes he does have a bad performance here and there, his work does pay off, and he did have that good performance.
He always talks about how he hates tournament, but he does really well because he has so much experience from Melee. Like being good enough and composed enough to be able to take the Chicago Arcadian.
Yeah, he definitely talked to me before about how he thinks he plays better in tournament than he does in tournaments. So sometimes when some people thrive off those situations.
Where that comes from, like the game face that he puts on tournament day. Like he actually will not enter a bracket if he doesn't feel warmed up enough, because he wants to perform at his very best, and you know, he makes sure to like warm up all day for bracket day, and he doesn't mess around. So week 8, definitely look out for him.
Next up we have Zing, and I think Zing has really shown his consistency this quarter, you know? He's had in general no bad placings. CSUN, he got a 5th place, losing to Seoul and Sohaib, which are not bad losses at all. He got a 2nd at week 4, which is basically his breakout performance, showing that even, you know, he can be the best player on a certain day. That he's able to, you know, do just as well. He took a set off Jump Steady and off David on that day.
Yeah.
And he basically only lost to Jump Steady, who won the tournament. And then after that, he had a 5th at week 6, only losing to David and Goldman, which are, you know, those players got 3rd and 2nd at the respective tournament.
Right.
It's definitely not bad losses. I mean, he's showing that he's able to consistently be at like 5th place or above at these normal locals that we have at UCLA, and sometimes even on a good day play as well as he needs to go really far in the bracket and even get second place.
Yeah.
So I think in general he has a really high skill floor where he's gonna consistently be at a certain spot, and I think that's also just with his character Snake being so familiar with the character that he knows. Sometimes he knows what to do, and he could catch people off guard with that as well.
He's also constantly looking for new tech that comes out and new traps to implement in his play. So he's always going to bring new things to the table. So even if you played him before, it's not going to be the same set that you played last time.
Yeah, and because he's such a technical player, most people ranked below him aren't even gonna know what to do against him because it's like, oh, he's just throwing so many grenades and there's explosions everywhere. What do I do?
It's really hard to upset Zing.
Yeah,
he's very overwhelming in general. I mean, I know that sometimes when I play him, like sometimes if I'm not on point, I don't know what's going on, and I just get bodied.
I think we can all attest to that.
If you aren't ready for the snake, you just kind of get wrecked.
Yeah.
So next up, we got Soul, who actually didn't really. He's been consistent this quarter. I mean, he got a third at CSUN. He got a fourth at the first FAD that we went to.
I think he beat SM there, right?
Yeah, he did have a win over He traded sets with SM.
Yeah, he lost to SM and losers, being in winners.
Yeah, and week 6, I know he lost to Suga and had to DQ into 5th place. So, it's unfortunate that we didn't get to see him play it out fully. But I think in general, we all know that Chris is a very strong player. I mean, he even despite playing a character like Ridley, he has the patience that he needs to, take advantage of all these situations. And he's always looking to lab new scenarios and figure out things.
He might be the player in the club that's most comfortable with their own character.
Yeah, he probably knows.
He knows every little thing about Ridley, and like he labs, percent ranges for when F throw and back throw will lead to tech situations on platforms, and Ridley up smash can cover the whole platform, and he actually gets that in matches. So like he will take every little trick that he can to perform better.
Yeah, and he does really well at the hats he goes to too, the off-campus tournaments.
Yeah, he's gotten top 8 a few times, taking the game off Nico twice, I think, right?
Yeah,
at least once. He has a win over Jump Steady at Hat. So, he's going to be a great contender to do very well at Week 8.
Definitely one of the hardest working players, but he plays Ridley, so it's a hard life.
Yeah, there's some things where like his set against Suga at Week 6, he literally just couldn't find an answer for Dare on Shield because Ridley's so big that it ended up shield poking at the bottom of the move, and it was like that and like eggs that he just could not find an answer for. And sometimes Ridley just doesn't have an answer. So it also is a bit of bracket luck that he doesn't run into a matchup that he can't find an answer for, because it's not necessarily that he loses all the winning matchups. It's just the ones where he's unfamiliar with. But yeah, I bet on him doing very well.
Yeah. And then we have Alfredo, who's only had really one performance this quarter at week 4. He got a 7th place, and he lost to Jump Steady, and I think he actually lost to me at that tournament as well. But in general, he made an upset over Band that tournament, and in general, I think Alfredo is also one of those consistent players where even though he's probably we haven't seen him out that often, I know he's gonna probably perform somewhere around where he's seated. He's just very comfortable with his characters.
Yeah, he also has huge counterpick potential with the famed Toad, the Mii swordsman. Almost no one has a ton of matchup experience in that, and it's definitely gotten him some cheesy wins in the past, and I wouldn't put it past him to aim for that again. He also has the Roy, Chrom, Lucina. Chrom not so much, but Roy, Lucina, he can flip between on a dime and perform just as well between them. So if he's not liking how a current set's going, he can just flip it on you right there, and you have to make the adjustments that he is.
Yeah, and the issues I have with him, especially as Roy, is that he can so consistently kill me at 80%, and I can't kill him until way later because I don't know how to gimp Roy yet. I haven't practiced it, but he's able to consistently get random F smashes, side Bs at the edge, jab bear, all that stuff, and it gets me every time.
Yeah, so he definitely finds the way to win and abuses it very well. His dash backs are unrivaled.
Yeah, definitely a strong player. I mean, having that melee background, he also has good tournament experience.
Definitely, yeah.
He knows what he needs to do in bracket in order to progress, and he's comfortable in those situations. So next, let's move on. Last current UCLA player that we're going to talk about is Band, and I mean, you've had a rough quarter.
Yeah.
I'd say. I mean,
Kind of sucked.
you had a 9th place at week 4, losing to Alfredo and PSI guy, and then at CSUN you also had a 9th place, which I mean, I know that in general Band's been having a character crisis, and I think he's finally found someone that he's more willing to try. You know, Palutena, a very solid character, and he's more willing to just take the risk in week 6, and he's willing to go that character for the first time in tournament, and you know it turned out well. I mean, he got revenge on PSI guy, and even though he got double eliminated by Goldman, I mean it's still a very solid performance, getting 4th place. I mean, yeah, I don't know how you're feeling going into week 8, but I think that, you know, with the Palutena being on deck, you have a lot to show in general that, you know, I haven't, now that I have this character, I can really do well and perform how I need to.
Yeah, so this quarter, it's been pretty hard because I think I main DDD and Young Link, and DDD is extremely counter-pickable and campable, and Young Link is extremely inconsistent. So when you combine both of those two together, it's pretty hard to consistently do well, because sometimes I just get cheesed as DDD, or sometimes I just get gimped by Luigi Zaire as Young Link, and so it's pretty hard. But after picking up Palu, I feel like I have a bigger opportunity to be more consistent, especially against like Ness, who was traditionally I've lost at like every Ness, but now with Palu it's like easy money. So I think for me especially, my bracket heavily affects my performance. So I really hope I get a good bracket.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in general, out of the people we've listed, like, you're able to compete with most of them, you know, do well. I mean, I know that you and me have had a rough head-to-head, and with me not being there, hopefully that goes well. You know, you wouldn't run into me, because I know in general, those matchups that you had there, I mean, so obviously those people, we could call them that we've just talked about, like, in general, like, they're up the top 4 right now in terms of results and how they played. But I know that, like, now that you have Palutena, you could definitely, you know, find more comfort in certain matchups and perform how you need to compete with them.
How new was your Palutena for week 6? Is it like
a week
old?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it's already almost as good as my DDD.
Yeah, you have way more experience with it now, and you've also had David to bounce ideas off of, and you can get pointers from him. So I would not expect you to bust her out week 8.
Yep. And I guess last we'll talk about Jugia. I mean, he's alumni. He's definitely, I mean, he was ranked, I think, 4th on our PR. Yeah. And, I mean, we haven't seen much from him in general from outside tournaments, but we all know he's just a very solid player.
Yeah.
Plays Peach. I mean, a very strong character. He gives people a lot of trouble.
He's come up to play friendlies with us a couple times in the past couple weeks, and, you know, he's just as strong as when he graduated, so...
Yeah, I think because he hasn't gone to stuff, what I've noticed playing him is that he has a tough time initially playing a lot of us because he doesn't have the experience.
Right.
But after he's kind of warmed up to us, he's able to get his 60% combos, and kill us with fair, all that Peach stuff.
Yeah.
So I think he's definitely capable of doing really well, but he's also very capable of bustering out a little bit.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. And then I guess now we'll put up on screen our basic... our list for how we think the PR player is going to perform, and we can discuss that slightly. Me and James basically have almost identical lists. Nick's is a bit different.
Nick's is basically the same as mine too.
Yeah, a little bit different.
No, I have seen pretty different ones.
Yeah. A little bit
I
towards the
think
end. I
top
think
Yeah.
it's a little bit. All right, so we could start talking. I mean, I think in general our top threes are all the same. We have some order of Sammy, Nanook, and Zing. I mean, I think they've shown that they definitely perform at those levels. And me and James have Sammy on top. I mean, we think after his last performance that he's just going even further now, and he's been grinding. I mean, what has you put him third as opposed to?
So, I think with Sammy, there's always a chance of him just like not feeling good that day. So, even week 6, after he beat me in his, I want to say it was it was like the losers top 8 qualifier, right? And he actually like wanted to delay his stream match a little bit just so he could warm up for a bit. So you could tell that like he was feeling nervous and he wasn't feeling well, and that can like really put a damper on you. So I think it's like really, really good that he still placed second given those feelings he was having. But I see that as a possible detriment to happen to him, and it's also I placed him third not out of like his incapability, but out of David or Nanook and Zing's capability. I think that David is going to come back really strong. He has like a large fire inside of him that was lit from not doing as well as he was hoping to in this quarter. And I think he's going to come back really strong and do really well. And then Zing is just the god of consistency in our club. So I just have to give this slight edge to them. But I honestly think that those top 3 could be interchange however you want, and it'd be pretty solid.
I agree. And then next we basically have some order of Soul, Band, and Alfredo. I mean, I had Band doing a bit better than Soul, I think, just because he's won the head-to-head before, and I think as I was talking earlier, like with his new character, he may have like a better chance now at tackling some of those tough matchups he had in the past. But I mean, all of these players I think can perform well on any given day.
I think the reason I put Soul above myself is that I think he's a lot less dampered by bad matchups because he's so used to bad matchups.
Mm-hmm.
So like a bad bracket wouldn't affect him as much as it would affect me.
Where would you guys put Jugia in this list, just out of
If
curiosity?
I had to put Jugia, I mean, I haven't played him recently, so I think he'd be somewhere around like Soul, Band.
It's
like
hard
somewhere
because
in
at
between
USC
there.
he did really, really well.
Yeah, but then we know like the last tournament, the last quarter, he lost to Zing and he lost to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to tell sometimes. And I haven't played him recently, so I just don't know. And we haven't seen him at a tournament recently, so...
I'd probably
hard to
put him
tell.
around my level.
Yeah, that's what
I'd
I'd
agree.
say. Alright then, that's basically our overview of Week 8. So now we're just going to quickly talk about what we have planned coming up to Week 9. And basically the theme for Week 9, since it's basically going to be our last event of the quarter, we wanted to do something kind of fun, and we decided on heroes versus villains being the theme. And the ideas we had for the event is basically we have this theme of heroes versus villains. We have a crew battle between some of like the heroes and villains of UCLA, basically personality-wise,
Yeah.
So, and then we have also like some salty sweet matches, just
Yeah.
it's for people to get those either salt matches or exhibition matches, basically to like fight off and show like who's better in those situations.
I'm really excited for this event because at least since I've been here, we haven't really done something like this where it's like themed and it's it's gonna be like more like casually focused in the sense that like we're just trying to like shit talk and have a lot of fun instead of trying to be super serious and everyone do well. Obviously, we're gonna try and win the crew battle and win our salty sweets, but it's gonna be a lot of banter in the background. I think it's gonna be like a really good way to like let loose for our club and just have a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then for the crew battle, I guess we'll talk about like who we have currently positioned to play on those teams. So on the hero sides, we have David, Nanook, Zing, Suvir, Melon, Bonathan, Nick, Preston, and Quills. And on the villain side, we have Chris, Sammy, Band, Alfredo, Saber, Hunter, Tsukasa, and Penguin. So, I mean, obviously, like, those crews are definitely stacked
Yeah.
in general. A lot of good, solid players on each side, and I think in general it'll be a close crew battle.
There's been a lot of discussion,
I
but I
definitely-
haven't heard a consensus about who
no
thinks.
one
Yeah.
is basically on like.
So the interesting thing about the format of this crew battle is that we didn't limit it to PR players. And the thing is, when you have crews are facing off against each other that have PR and non-PR players, typically you're probably gonna just counterpick a PR player against a non-PR that like just like had leftover stocks at the end of the last match. And you know, there's a good chance that they might just get washed out by that PR player because you're gonna try and pick a good matchup. And just the fact that it's PR versus non-PR, that's like pretty big. So I could see the lead switching constantly during this crew battle,
Yeah.
because then you just kind of pick the PR that just beat the non-PR with just like a good character matchup, right? And then you have to figure out how to take off the last few stocks versus them. And it actually might even come up to just, you know, which team's non-PR does better. You know, if every non-PR like takes one stock. That's like a huge detriment that the PR players have to carry on their back. So I think that's gonna be a really interesting dynamic to watch.
Yeah, and I think with 8 people, even if one person takes like 6 stocks in a row, the other team is very capable of coming back. I think like they can get counterpicked and then 6 stocks are taken, but then once that person's taken out and then they put in their non-PR, then that person can get counterpicked and then another 6 stocks can be taken by the
Yeah.
other team. So actually, it seems really important to take the early games to be able to counterpick, the counterpick advantage. But I can honestly, based on like strategy and order and stuff, it could really go either way.
Because like a lot of the time when skill level is pretty close between like individual crew members, you can kind of develop like a head-to-head. Like this is probably how it's gonna go, and like this has a slight advantage. But honestly, I could see this going either way. It could be a blowout. It could be close. I honestly have no idea.
Yeah.
And in general, we have a lot of fun things planned for that week. I think a few videos that we want to show when we get to that point at week 9. And in general, we hope it's a fun event for everyone and everyone gets to enjoy. We also think we're going to run, I think Preston wants to run Lowry that week. So we'll have a bit of a dynamic to that as well. And we'll see. We're going to flesh it out a bit more before we get there, but just wanted to bring it up for now. And with that, I think that's where we're just going to call it for today's podcast.
Yeah, I think we had a really great quarter, and we've got some great events planned. And I'm looking forward to see how the year will close out.
Yeah, and basically, we would enjoy it if you guys leave comments below on what you think of the podcast, any questions you have, and we'll try to answer some questions next time on the podcast when we do it next. But if you have any feedback or just anything that you want to say, just
Or any
leave a comment
topics you want us to
below.
talk about next time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just leave a comment below, and we'll be sure to, take that into account. And again, I guess we'll just reintroduce ourselves. Like, I'm Suvir.
I'm James.
Yeah, I'm Nick.
And with that, we'll sign off, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, thanks for listening.